months. It is a huge commitment, massive. And we applaud them for stepping up as Republicans and running for this congressional seat. Let's have a round of applause for this team. Okay, and our moderator for tonight, from Transylvania County, Janice Allen. Stand up and be recognized, Janice. Okay, at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Janice.
Welcome, candidates. Welcome, audience. Jeff has told you how the positions and the questions were assigned. This debate will have two parts, 45 minutes, then a break of 15 minutes, and then another 45 minutes, and we'll wrap up. And here's how it will work. First, each candidate will have a 1-minute opening statement. In the first half, everything will go left to right. After all the statements are made from these candidates, I will ask one question to each of these candidates, and there will be one in the first half, one in the second half. They'll have 90 seconds, a minute and a half to answer. We have timekeepers here who will, when it's 15 seconds until time's up, raise a yellow card. And then when there's no more time, we'll raise a red card. All right? After each question is answered, I will ask, are there other people who would like to comment on this subject matter? So the candidates who want to will then raise their hands, and I will call on them, left to right in the first half. They get 45 seconds, and they each get to do this 4 times in the first half, 4 times in the second half. In addition to these 4 times to comment for each half, if one candidate makes a clear reference to another candidate on the stage, then that candidate will get a freebie. That candidate will get 45 seconds to respond to whatever has been said. You got all that? Well, good, because there's going to be a quiz. Let's roll.
Okay, so I messed up. We want to get in our prayer, our pledge, and our anthem. Okay? So I'd like to bring forward Dr. Paul Brintley, who is the senior pastor of the Fellowship Church in Dallas, North Carolina, and a member of the Faith and Freedom Coalition. Dr. Brintley has a table in the back.
All right. We cannot forget to pray in an environment with these awesome candidates tonight, can we? Let's pray. But before we pray, let's take a moment of silence for A.J. Fox. We know we lost him in this area. So at this time, let's have a moment of silence for him. He was running for sheriff. Thank you. Gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight lifting up this awesome event. God, from Buncombe, Transylvania, all the counties that are represented, God, and these candidates that will be on display tonight, we lift them all before you, each and every one of us, that tonight will be a night of honor and a night of dedication for this great party that we serve. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Dr. Paul. And now we would ask, once a Marine, always a Marine, come forward, please. Transylvania County Commissioner Larry Chapman will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So we're going to stand again. Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's honor the greatest nation in the world and the flag that represents the freedoms that we're enjoying here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Lord and unborn.
And now I'd like to introduce from Jackson County our designated District 11 National Anthem singer. Please sing along with Molly McKinnon.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so bright
All right, let's roll. Opening statement, 1 minute. Mr. O'Connell.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Bruce O'Connell. I'm running for Congress, and I'm running my own way. I'm not going to make promises that cannot be kept, but I can promise to stick to my common sense, conservative, business approach to my life and to this endeavor. I will not do this for the money. I will donate my congressional salary. I will not seek fame, power, or a career in politics. I will term limit myself. I will not make personal attacks against my competitors. When we fight with our allies, we fight without our allies. I will, however, call out the things I disagree with, including the policies of Joe Biden. I'm not embarrassed to tell you that I drive a car that's powered by waste vegetable oil. I'm not afraid to tell you that I'm a conservationist. To you parents out there, I believe in the red card? Thank you, everybody.
Ms. Navarez, 1 minute, please.
Yes, my name is Wendy Marie Limbaugh Navarez, and this today is a job interview, right? Pretty intense job interview. And I believe that you need to look at our resumes, find the best, most well-rounded person to do the job. So my resume starts with being a mom. It's one of the ones that I feel is one of the most important jobs in our society, and I'm pretty sure all the moms in here can agree. I have 4 children, 19 years old, almost 16 years old, and twin 6.5-year-olds. They go to public school. I'm also a wife. I'm a veteran, a Navy veteran of 10 years. I served on 5 ships and 3 shore commands. Thank you. When women weren't on ships very often. I worked in manufacturing. I have two degrees from UNC Ag Western, and I believe in truth, honor, and service. Vote for experience, education, and leadership. Thank you.
Mr. Burrell.
Thank you. Hi, folks. I'm Matthew Burrell. I'm from Buncombe County. Been here since 1966, guys. I'm one of your only local folks in this race, and I'm excited about that. Guys, I am your conservative Christian businessman in this race. Let me start with conservative. I am 100% pro-life. I am also a defender, 100% defender of the Second Amendment and the First Amendment. We will never have a bureaucracy like the CDC or the socialists in Washington take away our First Amendment rights ever again for no reason whatsoever. Number 2, as a Christian man, my faith guides everything I do. It's every decision that I make. Many of you may have heard of Montreat College. To put it in perspective, Montreat College is a little school out in Black Mountain. It requires you to be a trustee to sign an affidavit of your faith which says the Bible is the infallible truth, Jesus died on the cross and was resurrected, and marriage is between one man and one woman. 36 years I was a financial advisor, and I've dedicated my life to Buncombe County. Glad to be here.
Ms. Fluger.
Thank you. This thing will let me go. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
I'm here for one reason. I stepped up to this plate for one reason, and that is to do everything in my power to return power to the people. I believe that the American people were canceled in 2020. I believe our values were ignored. I believe our faith is under assault. I believe that the principles that built this nation and the God that gave us our rights is being denied the sacredness of who He is in our lives. Okay? I intend to do everything in my power to rid our bureaucracies of corruption and empower the voice of the common person. Thomas Jefferson said, to educate the whole mass of the people, for with them lies the assurance of our freedoms and our liberties. With them. You are where the assurance of our freedoms and our liberties lie. Thank you.
Ms. Woodhouse.
My name is Michelle Woodhouse, and I am not the politician in this race, neither the rally politician or the empty chair politician. I am the patriot that stepped in to run in this race when I was asked to, not only by Congressman Cawthorn, but people all across this congressional district when I was serving as district chair. I'm a Christian, I'm a mother, and I live in Hendersonville. This race is about who can go to Washington, D.C., and on January 3rd start rolling back the failed policies of this administration. Policies that took us from an America First agenda to an America Last agenda. The first three things that I will do when I get to Washington, D.C. are take the borders back from the Mexican drug cartels. I will get us back to the Donald Trump energy dominant policies. And number three, we will investigate and prosecute Dr. Anthony Fauci for what he did to our communities. Our number one responsibility here on the ground in Western North Carolina is to get constituent services open again. Our sitting congressman closed 3 of his 4 offices. If you live in Cherokee County, you have a 5-hour round trip to get constituent services. That will change.
Mr. Honeycutt.
Good evening. Dr. Brantley, Larry, Jeff, Janice, Buncombe County, Transylvania County, thank you for hosting this tonight. My name is Rod Honeycutt, United States Army retired colonel. After 37 years in the military, I just got home after 37 years. We set a pledge to that flag. I have spent my life defending that flag. I'm now home to protect our district from politicians, drive-by people who walk by mistakes, and people who don't respect our children.
Amen.
My wife of 35 years is with me here tonight. She's blessed me with 3 sons, a future Army officer, a law enforcement officer in Buncombe County, and a child at North Buncombe. I'm proud of those young men because they're public servants. I'm proud of them even more because they're Christian young men who have stepped forward. My name is Rod Honeycutt. On May 17th, vote number 3, the Intimidator.
Mr. Edwards.
Yeah, well, good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for taking time to be here to learn more about the candidates. My name is Chuck Edwards, and I am treating this as a job interview. I'm asking you to hire me as your next congressman. I will tell you, I'm a Christian, I'm a family man. I've been married to the same woman right here for 41 years. We've raised 2 Christian children. I'm a small businessman. I started working behind the counter at McDonald's when I was 16. Now we have over 300 employees. I've been blessed to represent you in the North Carolina Senate for the last 6 years. You know, in a job interview, you typically look at what somebody has done. And you're going to have the opportunity tonight to hear what folks say that they will do. Folks, I've actually done the things that you're asking. I've cut taxes. I've balanced budgets. I've passed bills to protect the Second Amendment. I've introduced bills to defund cities that defund police. I'm looking so much forward to getting a chance to know you throughout the evening. Thank you. I'm Chuck Edwards.
Thank you, candidates. And the first question for a minute and a half, Mr. O'Connell. What is the truth about constituent services in this congressional district? Please provide specifics.
It's the number one job of the congressman to provide constituent services. From what I understand, our present congressman has closed several of his offices and made it difficult to give good constituent service. I believe that's partly, in fact, due to the fact that he's got a lack of business experience and doesn't know how to manage a large staff. And running for Congress does involve needing a business approach. You've got to be able to manage a staff. Constituent services will be a priority for me. The district will be a priority for me. But also, I will represent you in Washington on national issues. National issues like education. I believe there's no place for a Department of Education, and I do believe that we have no business teaching kindergartners through 3rd grade about sex. It shouldn't even be mentioned in school.
Amen.
I'm a believer in basic education, reading, writing, math, science, and history.
Yes.
And you know, a nation that forgets its history is no nation at all.
Amen.
And I will fight hard to abolish the Department of Education and bring control of education back to the local level for parents.
Now, are there other candidates who would like to add to this discussion? Ms. Navarez, 45 seconds.
Yes, as far as constituent services go, my record, as far as my resume, when Obama drew down the military forces back in the early 2000s, around 2008, we had to go to serving internally with the Navy over 52 ships and hundreds of thousands of personnel with very minimal people to do that. I was able to maintain a database and make sure that everybody was able to get very good constituent or customer service, internal customer service, in a timely and efficient manner.
Thank you. Others? We're going left to right. Ms. Fluter.
I'm going to stand up so I can see you guys.
Thank you.
I have spent 30 years in this district, never left this district, working with individuals, families, groups, and communities in crisis. So I'm dedicated to the people in Western North Carolina, from Clay, Murphy, Cherokee, Haywood, Graham, all the way out west here, to the east. If you are not advising your politicians, then they are not being advised well at all. I want to put people in office, in this constituent services office, that are from the community, and I myself want to be in that district office when I'm not voting in Raleigh, so I can hear from you personally. That's my promise, that's my guarantee. I want to hear from you.
Thank you. Ms. Woodhouse, 45 seconds.
Absolutely. Constituent services, there's a lot of talk about it, but let's talk about what it really is. It is making sure that we have representation for our constituents to go visit with the congressional office to get answers on Veterans Affairs, Social Security, issues with a pothole in their street. This is the day-to-day issues of what people are facing here. Our our plan for constituent services is very simple. We will have an office in every county in this congressional district. We will also have offices that travel to our seniors, because our congressional district is one of the oldest in the state of North Carolina, and we have seniors that are in need of services. We will break it down into groups that represent our congressional district: agriculture, law enforcement, veterans, families, and we will be working with them very closely on the ground.
Mr. Honeycutt.
I didn't wake up in November and realize we had a problem with constituent services. I realized that in April when I got home and I went out to Franklin and it was not open. It don't take 6 months to understand we got a problem. That is being a reactive leader. We want proactive leaders doing constituent services. There's 85,000 veterans in this district. They deserve a voice. We got seniors here who cannot get Social Security, can't get their tax checks because their offices have been closed. I will manage them ruthlessly. They will be managed, and you will know what I'm doing every day, because we will have communications across the district. It won't be me walking by mistake and waking up in November figuring out we got a problem.
And let me just clarify, each candidate has 4 comments in each half. Mr. Edwards.
I'm going to burn them all up right here.
Okay.
But I think constituent services warrants weighing in on. I've been a public servant all my life. I became a public servant when I was 16 years old. I've been a public servant throughout business. I've been a public servant while I've served in the Senate. If you walk in my Senate office, you're going to see a huge sign that says "First in Constituent Services." That's our mantra. That's what we live by. We did that way before these offices were closed. I'm going to tell you real quick, because you asked for specifics on, I'm not going to have time to tell you that story. Maybe I'll work it in later. First in Constituent Services is on my wall. We live by that, and we take ownership of the problems. Thank you.
Mr. O'Connell.
Yeah, I hate to say this, but I got to call it out. Michelle, it's a great idea to have a constituent service office in every county. I'd love it. But from what I understand, when you get elected, you only get a staff of a handful of people. When you're a freshman congressman, you don't get 15 people paid for by the government to set up an office in every county. I have to say, I will not promise things that I can't deliver. And that's what we've got to stop. I'm not going to promise you things that are impossible to do. What I will tell you is there'll be offices and they'll be open, but they can't possibly be one in every single county. There's no money, and you're not given that many staff members as a freshman congressperson.
And as Ms. Woodhouse was referred to, yes.
So Bruce, you're not given a head count, you're given a budget. That's what happens when you're in Congress, and you set your offices up based on that budget. So what we've seen are offices that have interns, they have part-time staff, they have full-time staff, and that's part of running the business of constituent services. It's not putting head count in heavily populated places. It's using the dollars that you have to serve every one of the counties in this district, because we can't just service Buncombe. We've got to service Clay and Graham and Cherokee, the far west counties that continue to be forgotten, and they will not be forgotten when Michelle Woodhouse is in Congress.
All right. Now we move to question 2. Ms. Navarez, how has Kevin McCarthy performed during the 117th Congress, and would you support him for Speaker of the House?
Stand so everybody can see me. So the 117th Congress has definitely, and granted I am fairly young, but I believe it is a very divisive Congress. Mr. Cawthorn, who is not here, has missed more votes than most on average any other, 37 votes out of the hundreds. So that's about 6% when the average is 2%. So I think the biggest thing that we need to focus on is, as a freshman congressperson, is showing up to the job, learning from the people that have been there for a little while, and trying to be the best representative that we can be. So as far as that goes, I think that everybody needs to lead by example, and when I go in and I'm able to actually witness what's going on firsthand instead of what's being shown to us, then I will be able to make that determination then. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone like to add to the discussion? Mr. Burrell.
Sure, thank you. Yes.
45 seconds.
45 seconds, great. Kevin McCarthy actually filibustered, and that was a right doggone thing to do. Now, do I agree with everything Kevin McCarthy's done as the Speaker for the Republican Party? Absolutely not. No way. But you know what? 117th Congress is led by Nancy Pelosi. This person is 81 years old. No offense to you folks out there that are 81 years old, but I tell you what, if we don't have term limits, if we don't have age limits, we're going to have a skilled nursing center attached to the back of the Capitol that will have Nancy Pelosi's name on it. Get her out of
there. Anyone else? Ms. Sluder.
So can I just echo everything he said and hope
yes,
and
you
pray?
may. Go get him.
Yeah, and hope and pray that when I get there and I team up with Marjorie Taylor Greene to impeach Joe Biden, that Kevin McCarthy will help us do that. I hope that when we get there, we can take out Joe Biden for being so corrupt, leaving our borders open, and allowing the DOJ to be weaponized against our parents, and for the January 6th prisoners not getting their constitutional rights. Okay? Right? I will back McCarthy, and I hope he backs us.
Yeah. Thank you. Other comments on this subject? Thank you. We'll go to the question that would have been given to Mr. Cawthorn. And I will ask the question, and then if you raise your hand, you would like to answer, you'll get a minute and a half. 45. Thank you, Jeff. 45. Several states are passing abortion laws ahead of the Supreme Court hearing a pivotal Mississippi case this summer. What should North Carolina do, and when, in your opinion, is the latest that a healthy, non-life-threatening pregnancy can be legally terminated. Okay, I see Mr. Burrell will go first.
You guys don't want it? I'll take it. Guys, this is a serious topic, and there is no such thing as a timeline, darling. When that seed hits the sperm, that's a human. And that human has rights. Every spring, my wife plants a garden, and she puts a seed in the ground, and the flower that comes up and the fruit that comes up doesn't look anything like the seed. And the scientists and the biologists and the doctors can say all they want to about that seed not looking like a human, but it's a human. God put that creation in there, and that's where it should be, and that human has rights.
Ms. Sluder.
Listen, Jesus said, before I formed you in your mother's womb, I knew you. And right now, at this time of year, every one of us need to think about what it cost him to make us.
That's right.
He knew what he'd have to pay for us. So let's not downplay that. Listen, it is a betrayal of innocent blood.
Amen.
That's exactly what it is. It's a betrayal of innocent blood, and it is unacceptable to think that our young people cannot abstain or that they can't use contraceptives and that adoption is a better option.
Amen.
And that's my position on that.
Thank you. 45 seconds, Ms. Woodhouse.
Thank you. I had the honor of being on the steps of the Supreme Court for the Dobbs hearing, and Roe v. Wade will be overturned this summer.
Hallelujah.
It will be, and I stand, I have eggs, not seeds, Matthew, but I know. The moment of conception is when the life begins, and I stand very firmly on the pro-life movement. I've been active in it for well over a decade. I was at the March for Life in Washington, D.C., and to see young people there fighting in this place is an amazing, amazing change. We will see Roe v. Wade overturned. Part of the question was about heartbeat laws in our states. I 100% support that. And we absolutely have to protect the most vulnerable amongst us, the unborn.
Mr. Honeycutt, 45 seconds.
I married a NICU nurse. She fights for children after they're born. I will fight for children in the womb. It's the most precious thing our God has given us. The 118th Congress. It is the most critical task we will face. If we don't send someone with Western North Carolina conservative values, he's born, raised, and stayed in Western North Carolina and has a foundation to stand up and tell everyone, I will fight for the unborn child, you're making a mistake. I watched 3 sons be born. I watched my dad take his last breath. I will fight for the unborn, and I will fight for our seniors. It's the most precious thing we got in the world.
Amen.
Mr. Edwards.
Life begins at conception, so there is no timeline. But again, folks, I'd like to remind you that in this job interview, I've actually done the things that everybody else is going to tell you they're going to do. I'm excited to have recently been rated A+ by the North Carolina Values Coalition for my pro-family and pro-life actions in the North Carolina General Assembly, where we worked to pass a number of bills to help begin to roll back the horrible abortion laws that we have in this country, meaning discrimination against the unborn based off of their race or their sex or disability, meaning that we would eliminate the possibility, or we would require doctors to keep an unborn child alive if they were intended to be aborted. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Burrell, you were referred to. Would you like 30 seconds to respond?
No, thank you, Ms. Shell. I apologize. I mischaracterized seed versus egg. I'll let that pass. Thank you.
Okay. All right. years of the Biden presidency?
There's only 3? Come on, guys, come on. 3. Goodness gracious. Kamala Harris. That's the biggest one. Number 2 biggest missteps is the fact that they screwed us last time on the election, and we're not going to let it happen again. That's what I'm going to say. That was a big mess up by those folks. Let me tell you what. Donald Trump had more voters. Joe Biden just had more ballots. And we all know it, right? We all know it. Give it to him. So there's 2, all right? The third and the biggest problem, the biggest misstep for the Biden administration is simply Joe Biden. Joe Biden is our biggest national security threat. Joe Biden is the man who has threatened every pocketbook in this room. Yes. Joe Biden has taken money out of unwed mothers. Joe Biden has taken money out of our pocketbook. He has destroyed our daily lives. Yes. Joe Biden is the biggest misstep of the entire Biden administration. There's no question about it. This man cannot possibly be the commander-in-chief. No man that's a president of the United States goes to Atlanta, Georgia, and puts the words George Wallace or Jefferson Davis in a speech. Someone wrote that for him, and it wasn't him. Joe Biden is the biggest national security threat. He's the biggest threat to your daily life. He's the biggest threat to independence and freedom in this country. He is the biggest threat to our nation.
Amen.
Let's go, Ms. Sluter, 45 seconds.
My last one.
The border. Okay, the border. All right. 100,000 overdoses from fentanyl last year.
That's right.
Children being thrown over the border wall after bags of trash, left in the desert to dehydrate, die from dehydration. Right. Women and children being human trafficked across our border, and the cartel making the biggest profit in their history off the backs of the poorest people in the world. I think that is Joe Biden's #1 biggest mistake. #2, because people are dying from that, and the people who don't have compassion for that have a problem and shouldn't be in politics, okay? The other thing is our pipeline. What were they thinking, okay? These aren't Democrats, people. Democrats don't cancel union jobs.
That's right.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
Environmental activists cancel union jobs, and they see us as another species of animals, and I will promise you I'll take care of that when I get there with everything that's in me.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to weigh in on this issue? Ms. Navarez, 45 seconds.
I find it a shame that the first thing out of the folks' mouths up here was not the 13 people, my brothers and sisters, who died in Afghanistan when Biden botched our withdrawal.
Amen.
Period. We are always forgotten. We did not think about the veterans when they came back from Vietnam. We don't think about the veterans when we're making policy. We are always the last ones, and their lives mean something to me. And if that wasn't the first thing that came to your mind, shame.
Mr. O'Connell.
I might as well weigh in on Joe Biden. I don't believe he knows what he's doing. I believe he's a puppet president that's being manipulated by the bureaucracy that was left over from the Obama days.
Yes.
I believe he has no clue how to lead.
That's true.
And I believe he's been in government way too long.
Yeah.
So we don't have a problem with Joe Biden. We've got a problem with the people that elected him and the people that are controlling him. It's the entrenched bureaucracy that stays there from administration to administration, no matter who the president is. We've got to have term limits for those bureaucrats, not just for politicians.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connell. Anyone else? Ms. Woodhouse.
Wendy, thank you, because the 13 that died in Afghanistan and the botched effort there by Joe Biden is absolutely going to be forever his legacy. But let's not forget what just happened. Joe Biden put forth someone who will spend the rest of her life on the Supreme Court.
That's right.
who sympathizes with pedophiles, who supports the grooming of our children, and that legacy will live on much longer than Joe Biden's time occupying Pennsylvania Avenue.
That's true.
Are there others?
She indirectly referenced all of us. Shame on us. 30 seconds. Okay. I have a son who was in Afghanistan. Let me just put it that way, okay?
Are there others? Other comments about this? All right, Ms. Sluter, your question, you get the next question. As a single member of Congress, what can you do to reduce drug trafficking and dangerously addictive synthetic opioids in our communities? 1.5 minutes.
So I just spent 30 years working to prevent fatal overdoses in multiple counties in western North Carolina. The very first thing we have to do is close the border. 100,000 people died from fentanyl overdoses last year alone. And do you know who is manufacturing that fentanyl? China. And listen, it's not gangs in China. It's not gangs in China. There's no gangs in China. It is the CCP that is manufacturing that stuff. With Soros having our border wide open, they're able to traffic it right across our...
That's right.
And I was in Rutherford County the other day. It is horrific what they're having to deal with in trafficking and in overdoses down there. We need treatment services. We need dealers. We do need dealers arrested. And we need to be able to provide an open door for people who are struggling with addiction without enabling them. It is a very fine line, and families need support for it. I've lost 2 brothers to addiction-related illnesses. It is the most painful thing that you will ever experience in your life. Our border has to close. They are killing us, and they don't care.
That's right.
Thank you. Would anyone like to add to this discussion?
Don't waste it.
Mr. Honeycutt, 45 seconds.
For the record, I had 9 pages of Biden. I just couldn't get to it, and I didn't want to waste one of those bullet things there. All right, so our southern border should be the #1 priority that we're focused on right now. Our Border Patrol agents have been forgotten about, but more importantly, here at home, we should be back in the blue. Every county right now is a border county.
That's right.
I've got a policy that I want you to go on the page and look. It's called Select the Best to Protect the Rest. I will take young men and women out of school, put them in their law enforcement, let their education be paid, and let them serve for our counties. We had Joe Biden want to eliminate your scholarship funds. No. Welcome to a uniform, welcome to a weapon. Get on the border and help us patrol it. Let's don't give nothing away for free.
Yeah.
We got to take our country back.
Thank you. Any others on this subject? Ms. Navarez. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see your hand. Mr. Edwards.
We all know that we have to secure the border. There's no question about that. Securing this nation's people requires that we secure the border. The other thing that we need to do is we need to support our police. And I am extremely proud that just a couple of days ago, the North Carolina Police Benevolence Association endorsed me, Chuck Edwards, for this seat above all the other candidates here. I have been awarded from the North Carolina Sheriff's Association the Defender of Public Safety Award for defending our police and passing law-friendly legislation for 2 consecutive years. I'm the guy that introduced the legislation to defund cities that defund police, folks. Look into my resume. I've actually done the things everybody else says they want to do.
Ms. Navarez.
So as far as drugs go in this country, I think it's 3-part. I would agree that we need to increase border security, but I would say that we need to invest in K-9. You see them at airports, you see them at military bases. You can put as many humans on the border as you want, but they're not going to find the drugs. So I think that would be a huge improvement to increase that at the border. The second part is to educate our kids. and to make sure that they understand what these drugs will do to them, because I don't see that happening the way it should be through, for instance, health and PE that is required in school. They should go over these things. And third would be, of course, treatment, which I know there's some experience on the panel with that. We need to make sure that these folks have the treatment that they need.
Thank you. All right, let's go to the next question. Ms. Woodhouse, what can Congress do, if anything, to clean up journalistic malpractice? Or does freedom of the press continue to permit the poorly functioning legacy of traditional media? 90 seconds.
Need 2 minutes for that.
Turn off your television. The state of our media right now is like nothing we've ever seen in our lives. I remember growing up watching 60 Minutes, watching Walter Cronkite, and you could believe what you saw. Reading the paper every day with my parents, knowing that that's what you could believe, but you can't do that any longer. What we have now are stations that are opinion-driven. It's completely about their political agenda, and we see it. Selective news is broadcast. I don't think it's the role of the federal government to get involved in the freedom of the press. I think it is the role of the American people to stand up and say, I will not take this any longer. I'm not going to watch those shows. Take your dollars. Right now we have woke Disney. Stop spending money there. You don't like what the Wall Street Journal watches? Don't turn on CNN or MSNBC if you don't believe what they're saying is truthful. You have the power. Take it back. Do not let them execute their power against you.
Amen. Would anyone like to comment? Mr. Burrell.
Yeah, I'll take a shot at this because this is the 230 Act that there's in Congress right now that says that we'll be able to limit what these companies say and how they restrict their messaging. Guys, freedom of speech is really that. The problem is that these are all profit-driven companies, all right? These folks know that if it's sensational, it will sell. Think about it. Donald Trump is on the front page of the New York Times 3 or 4 times a week. If Donald Trump was silent, the New York Times would be out of business. We all know it, right? So what we've got to do is keep these folks that Michelle's talking about, the bad actors in media that pour gasoline on the problem and then light the fire. Just don't participate in them, and don't watch them. That's as simple as that. They're for profit.
Okay, thank you.
That was the last question of this half. Is that the last question?
No, we have 2 more. All right.
Regarding the press, Matthew referred to Section 230. It means that they can do whatever they want and they can't be sued. That's not good.
No.
They've got to be held to a higher standard. If they want to be able to control and censor people, they've also got to be able to be sued if they do the wrong thing.
That's right.
We've got to make sure that it's either a free press or they're subject to libel suits. Section 230 is one way to solve the problem. The other way is that we can hope and pray that Elon Musk buys a whole bunch more of Twitter and turns that into a conservative platform.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connell. Who else? Mr. Burrell.
Sure, I'll show you again. All right, I'll take you one farther, Bruce, because I have sent messages to President Trump. You know, he's got a thing called Digital World Acquisition Corp, DWAC, and I have advised his advisors to go out, and now that CNN is the worst-rated cable network in the world, in the United States, but it's a global footprint owned by Time Warner, go out and use Digital World. They've got $290 billion in that DWAC. Go buy CNN and make it a conservative station, and we'll have conservative messages all over the globe and every airport all around the world, and we'll see positive America. We'll see the flag being waved, and we'll see America first back around this globe. Buy CNN, Don. That's what we want you to do.
Thank you. All right, others? All right. Mr. Honeycutt, this question is for you for 1.5 minutes. If elected, what are your 3 priorities when the 118th Congress convenes in January?
Man, I hate to beat a broken drum. Close the southern border. Start drilling. We've got inflation out of control. We've got to become energy dominant. Energy dominant means completing the XL pipeline, start drilling and protecting 2.6 million miles of pipeline across the United States that they don't get protected by a cyber attack, what we've seen in Colonial Pipeline. We've got men and women standing in a gas line waiting. Closing that southern border is important. We also got to focus on our east, west, and north borders. The way President Biden left Afghanistan was an embarrassment. It's put our nation at threat. All over.
All over. That's right.
Taking care of our children's education. 2 years of mask mandates, putting our children behind. We've got children out in Cherokee County that can't say their ABCs tonight in the 2nd grade. We got high school seniors who cannot write a paragraph because they don't know how to complete a complete sentence.
Let alone write it.
We've got to start taking care of our children. Number one, that gentleman who spoke before I got up here tonight talked about education. It is the number one thing we got to take care of right now. We got jobs coming into the district. We don't have a job pool big enough to fill those jobs right now, but because we don't have men and women educated enough to go to work. I will fight every day for the children of Western North Carolina in our district.
Thank you, Mr. Honeycutt. Mr. Edwards, 45 seconds.
You're not going to let me take these home, so I'll just use them, okay? I would have to add to that list of priorities to show up and vote on the House floor, because it's our job to do that. Our current congressman has one of the absolute worst voting participation records in all of Washington, D.C. 416 House members have a better voting record than our current congressman. Every time that he misses a vote on the floor of the U.S. House, this district's voice is not heard. Send Chuck Edwards to Congress. Your voice will be heard.
Thank you. Others weighing in. Ms. Navarez.
I believe this is my last one. So I definitely want to take a moment to be able to tell you the things that I would like to prioritize. National security is, of course, I believe, something that is important to all of us, but also focusing on the district that we're hired to take care of, right? So we want our kids to be able to grow up in the neighborhoods that they grew up in. Right now, they can't find a job, they can't find a house they can afford so that they can start their own families. So the focus for me would be bring jobs back to the rural areas, make sure that there is workforce housing for those people who are working hard in those communities, and make sure that we take care of the family unit. Thank you.
Mr. O'Connell, 45.
3 priorities. Like everybody said, we got to secure the border, we got to become energy independent again, and we got to fix the education system. That's where it starts. Those 3 things will work towards the better future for our children. They will bring down prices because energy influences everything we do. It's not just fuel. And folks, let me tell you something. If we can't fuel and feed ourselves as a country, we're doomed. And right now, we're buying everything from overseas. We're a nation of shopkeepers. That's what we've become. We've got to begin to produce right here at home, not just petroleum, not just fuel, but everything, and stop relying on our enemies to support us with what we need.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Now we come to the last question of this first half for Mr. Edwards. How does a member of the U.S. House square earmarks and pork, a balanced budget, and bringing dollars back to the district?
We absolutely cannot balance a budget with earmarks in the federal government. They need to go away. We need to have a vote on a budget. We need to have a budget. We've not had a budget in X number of years. I can't tell you the last time we've had a budget. We cannot reduce the debt, which is one of the other big security threats of this nation, without a budget. Folks, I have been there. I'm an appropriations chair with the North Carolina Senate. I have balanced budget under fire of the Democrats asking for different things, of even Republicans asking for different things, with folks wanting to drive spending for no other reason that they can earmark things and take back to their district. We have got to have discipline in spending, or this country's future is at significant risk.
Thank you. All right. Mr. O'Connell, 45.
I run a business. That's how I'm going to take my approach in Washington. Common sense, folks. You can't spend money you don't have. When you borrow money, you got to figure a way to pay it back. All of these giant bills, like that infrastructure bill, too big. Nobody can manage $1 trillion bill. It's impossible. If you want to fix a road, have a bill for the road. You want to fix a bridge, have a bill for the bridge. But you can't have $1 trillion bill and tell me that a person can manage that much money without wasting it. Too big, too much, just like the federal government. Too big, too much.
Thank you. Mr. Burrow.
Jeff says I'm out.
You've used it all. Ms. Woodhouse. Last one.
All right, it's the last question.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Well, good. That was good time management. We need to have a federal balanced budget amendment, and I would 100% support that day one in the House. We must have a balance. If we don't have a balanced budget amendment, the Congress will never balance the budget. Right now, Joe Biden has put in front of them a $6 trillion budget. It has $45 billion in tax penalties to domestic energy companies. We roll in omnibus bills on a cart at 1:38 in the morning that are 6,500 pages long, that are packed with pork and earmarks. And people vote on it. Why? Because all of this gets done in back rooms with politicians. It happens in Raleigh. It happens in Washington, D.C. The only way that we get back to fiscal responsibility is if we mandate it happens.
Thank you. Mr. Honeycutt.
I'd be rounds complete after this one. $3.2 trillion budget this year. 1/4 of it is your national defense. Who better to go to Washington, D.C. and look Milley in the eye, look Lloyd Austin in the eye and say, why are we spending that money and we shouldn't be? The only candidate on this stage who has come up with a program called the GOP, the Government Optimization Plan. Let's cut 20% out of every agency over the next 3 years. Starting with the Department of Education, who has cheated us. Starting with the Department of Justice, who has men and women locked up that shouldn't be locked up. Let's have a plan. If there's a candidate on the stage who has a sharper pencil or a better calculator, let's use theirs, but let's start somewhere.
Thank you. All right. This concludes our first half of the debate. Thank you, candidates. We will see you in 15 minutes.
People of color in the room. Well, there's reasons behind that. One reason is they don't feel like they're being invited. Y'all come on back up. Come on back up. But what I found in Transylvania and Buncombe County, you guys are extremely welcoming. And so I just want to talk for a moment on how could we get more people of diversity in the room. Well, the number one issue is when I go places, they say, tell me about this racism thing. And so I talk about, hey, I've opened up Subway franchises, I've opened up Allstate agencies, and pastor a church. All those things are great. But one day I knelt down at an altar in 1985 and I gave my life to Jesus Christ. Amen. And so what I found, thank you, yeah, the Lord deserves the praise. So what I found is that I'm a conservative. And my values of being a Christian line up with conservative values. And most of the people in the black community have that same mindset, socially and biblically. But for some reason, when they get in the voting booth, they pull the wrong lever. So So I got a mandate to make some conservative evangelists. So how can you be a conservative evangelist? The way is you have to identify the lies. See, we've got an enemy out there called the devil that loves to tell false truths. Amen. And so this community has been lied to. So people say, well, I want to know the truth. Well, you got to tell them the truth. And it's not demeaning, it's not putting them down. It's just I want you to be an advocate of truth. There's one thing about truth, it doesn't have error. And people love truth, even if it's hard sometimes. But people love truth. So what I did, I wrote a book called Black Lives Matter. It's in opposition to all of the Black Lives Matter movement, but the lies has been told to the black community. So I wrote this book to debunk and to expose those things. So if you're interested in that book, you can get one at our back table tonight. Anybody want one for free?
Yeah.
All right, one with the black shirt on with the polka dots. I'll sign that for you when you come to the back. I'll sign it. Is there any Judge Janine fans here?
Yeah.
All right, all the way in the back corner in the pink. This is an autographed copy of Judge Janine's book, Don't Lie to Me. Yeah, in the pink blazer. You get this book tonight. I have more of them that are autographed at the back table if anybody's interested in them. All they go to support the North Carolina Faith and Freedom Coalition. We're the largest evangelical get out and vote, you're welcome, vote organization in the state of North Carolina. I can come to your GOP meetings, talk about it. I can talk about other things, critical race theory, racism, Black Lives Matter, all those things. I'd love to come meet you. You can come back to our back table and meet us as well. Jeff has been awesome having me here. Hey, I met your mom. Awesome. Thank you. Jeff and I have the same barber, so I just love Jeff. God bless you all. Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you, candidates. Now we begin the second half, and everything goes right to left this time around. So, Mr. Edwards, first question for you for a minute and a half. What were the three biggest accomplishments of the Trump presidency?
Wow. That's even more difficult than what were the biggest failures of Joe Biden. I would say that President Trump energized this country.
Amen.
And we saw a red wave, and we still feel that energy today in a way that we have not in a long, long time. As a businessman, he brought energy, vitality, common sense, hard-nosed negotiating to the table, and rolled back incredible amounts of regulation. We had the best federal tax cut that we've seen in many, many years. And we had a roaring economy where families, working families, had hope and opportunity. And I am looking forward to the point that we have those days again.
Yes.
President Trump has done more for this country than any president in recent history. Thank you.
Amen.
Who else would like to weigh in on this one?
Sure, I'll take it.
Okay, we're going right to left. So, Mr. Burrow?
My bad.
Ms. Woodhouse, you want, okay, yes. Okay.
Here we go. Donald Trump's legacy will live on in the Supreme Court, and we will see it this summer when Roe v. Wade is overturned because of the three conservatives that he put on to the Supreme Court. The judicial appointments of Donald Trump will forever be his legacy. He did it when people in our own party, including Senator Richard Burr, were working against him. He did it when members of his own party were fighting him tooth and nail with a fake Russia collusion story. So my question to Senator Edwards would be, why are you using Richard Burr's political consultant, Richard Burr, who voted guilty for President Trump, undermined the Trump administration, why are you using that political team to try to run for Congress in Western North Carolina?
Thank you. Mr. Edwards, you have a reply.
Yeah, I'll be happy to answer that question. I use one of the top-rated political consultants in this entire country because I intend to win this race, and I wanted to hire the best. But the real reason, when it comes right down to it, is because he wouldn't work for you. No, that's exactly true. And he provided me the text message exchanges between the two in case anybody here wants to see them. I'll be happy to provide those to you. Thank you.
All right.
So money wins?
Who said I was using another show?
I do.
You have to use one of your four.
This doesn't count as using my name.
Okay. Would anyone else like to weigh in on the original question, and we'll maybe right to left? I think Mr. O'Connell would. Oh, no? Ms. Sluter. We'll go this way.
Can we just say the words, Trump was... Seriously, Trump was what? He was right. He was right about the wall. He was right about the media. He was right about the Marxist agenda in our country. He was right about the globalists. And he said, they're not after me. I'm just in their way. And I'll tell you, the thing I'm most grateful to him for is waking people up to the problem. Thank God for that. Thank God for that. Because it takes all of us. You know, the cavalry is not coming. We are the cavalry, okay? So I'm thankful you're here. I'm thankful he woke us up.
Yes. Thank you. Mr. Burrow, 45 seconds.
Thank you. Donald Trump gave me and every person in this room back something we've been missing a long time, and that's our voice. I'm telling you, Donald Trump allowed me to push back against the political correctness that I've been dealing with for 30 years in my life. Oprah Winfrey started it all whenever she started the hyphenated American. And I'm telling you guys, Donald Trump gave me my voice back to push back against all those people who telling me that I'm the problem. Folks, we are not the problem. We are the reason why this country is great. Donald Trump believed in me, and he believes in you because he knows that you are the ones that made this country great, and you are the ones that are the reason why people want to come here. Nobody's wanting to leave this country. They're always wanting to come here because of you and me. Thank you, Donald Trump, for giving me my voice back.
Thank you. Ms. Ray-Con, 45 seconds.
Donald Trump's policies were spot on. He was a businessman. He wasn't a politician.
That's right.
He went to Washington with a different approach. He didn't care about politics.
That's right.
He didn't take a salary. What you're witnessing up here tonight, folks, is politicians going after each other. That's part of the problem. Don't send somebody to Washington that's a politician. That's the problem. You need to send someone that has nothing to do with politics, someone with common sense, someone that knows how to run a business and balance the books, and someone that doesn't owe anybody anything. I don't have a lot of endorsements except from my friends and my family and people that know me. I don't owe any politicians anything.
Thank you. Ms. Navarez, 45.
All right, so to start with, no one can give me my voice back because I don't let anybody take it to begin with. Second, as far as business people go, yes, running the federal government And all of the taxpayers' dollars is extremely important to run efficiently and effectively. However, there is a double bottom line. We're not doing it for profit, we're doing it for people. So that second part is for the common good of the American people. And if a business person only has profit in mind, they're not going to be thinking about the American people.
Thank you. Any others? Then we'll go to our next question for Mr. Honeycutt. Following Russia's ruthless attack, did our country do enough for Ukraine? And what conditions merit the United States going to war?
Man, what a question for a job interview. Yeah. One person on this stage has actually been there. One person has actually wrote a letter home to a mom and dad that their son didn't make it back. That's the kind of leader I want in Washington, D.C., making decisions about our sons and daughters. The answer is absolutely not. I manage 4 sites on the Russian border. We've got train tracks with equipment that goes all the way to Ukraine. President Trump authorized it. President Biden watched it happen. We cost 43 million men and women their democracy and their freedoms because of weak leadership. And it started in Afghanistan. It rolled over to Ukraine. We could have helped our country. We used to be the country that had the backbone to go help. We watched. I'm embarrassed that we did that. I trained those soldiers. I looked the men and women in the eye in Ukraine. That's not who we are as Americans. In the War College, you go to war for 3 reasons: fear, honor, and interest. President Putin was not fearful of Ukraine. He got what he wanted when he annexed Crimea. He had one interest, and that was to take Kiev back and put it in the hands of the old Soviet Union. The old Soviet Union was born in Kiev before it moved to Moscow. He will not stop there. His next stop is Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, where he will take the next step to take care of democracy.
Thank you, Mr. Honeycutt. Who would like to weigh in on this? Ms. Sluter.
So I just want to say that I thank God that my son was not in Afghanistan under Miss Millie and Austin.
Yes.
As a mom, I have never prayed more, visited the post office more, or worried more in my entire life. They're teaching socialism at the University of the Military Institute in D.C. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? I'm sorry. I kind of go back to thinking about everything that went on during that time. But we have to be able to build our military in a way that brings honor and respect back to our country. We've been embarrassed throughout the world, and it's time that that changes.
Amen. Thank you. Ms. Navarez, 45.
So as far as Ukraine goes, we know for a fact back in 2014, after Crimea was taken, and all the atrocities that happened to the women and children there, raping and pillaging, we knew this was the next thing that was coming. It just took a trigger point. And so as we stand by and watch these things happen, we could have helped. We could have helped by sending the aid that they needed before Putin invaded. We knew this was going to happen. So again, we need to make sure that we're taking care of allies and that we as Christian people care about the women and children around the world that are being attacked every day. They're not soldiers, they're civilians.
Thank you. Other comments on this question? Right, Ms. Woodhouse, your question is, what are your takeaways from the 2020 presidential election?
That we weren't paying attention before the 2020 election, because they started stealing that election the minute Hillary Clinton conceded that she had lost. They started their plan right then. One of the big takeaways in the Woodhouse house was that my husband was a White House appointee under Donald Trump. And the minute that Joe Biden took occupancy on Pennsylvania Avenue, my husband got a cardboard box and his phone turned off. That's what Democrats do. That's what they do. We know the election was stolen, and we know that they picked 16 counties across the country to do it. It wasn't a big leveraged 50 statewide effort. It was 16 counties. They were very specific in what they did, and we got caught flat-footed. We have election integrity issues right here in North Carolina, and had they needed North Carolina to steal it, I'm sure Josh Stein had Rubbermaid tubs in the back of his minivan ready to do it. We have issues here. Same-day voter registration, no voter ID, rolls that have tens of thousands of dead people on them. In Buncombe County, we watched Republicans lose by the exact same margin, and when the General Assembly was presented with evidence of election fraud, nothing changed. You don't want the federal government involved in elections. Thank God that the John Lewis Voting Act did not pass. It would have been the end of our democracy. But we know that election was stolen, and the state General Assemblies have to step up and protect our elections.
Any more comments on this issue? Mr. O'Connell, 45.
Election fraud. There's always been election fraud to some degree. It's like shoplifting. There's always shoplifting. You just build it into your equation. Unfortunately, when COVID came along, it gave the Democrats the opportunity to change the rules. Absentee voting, early voting, vote anywhere you want, vote any way you want. The rules got changed. There was more fraud in the 2020 election. I do know, like Michelle said, there is voter fraud going on in North Carolina. And when I was at a meeting and asked the question, who's in charge? Nobody could tell me. I said, who writes the software that's supposed to catch this stuff? Nobody could tell me. Somebody needs to be fired. And we need to hire somebody to make sure we have election integrity. It's that simple.
Thank you. Anyone else want to add? All right. Ms. Sluter. In 2021, 19 Republican U.S. senators and 13 Republican House members voted in favor of the $1.2 trillion, 2,700-page infrastructure bill. Where would you have come down on this vote and why?
You know, the people in Western North Carolina, they need Wi-Fi, they need cell service, they need bridges, and they need roads, especially in the far west, and they completely ruined that bill with earmarks. There was good stuff in that bill, but it was unreasonable, and it is pushing our debt limit to a point that that is going to destroy us. Right. It's going to destroy us. We have to get rid of earmarks. You know, we need stuff that's in that bill, but the way they pack those bills at 2 o'clock in the morning with a notice at 12 o'clock at night shows us the amount of corruption that is in our systems and the blatant disregard for the people who pay the bill.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's what it showed me. And I will work, and listen to me, I'm going to say this, look up Convention of States. We need term limits. We need a balanced budget. They will not do it themselves. The Founding Fathers gave the states the tools to do it. North Carolina needs to pass theirs. It's sitting in the Senate Rules Committee. The states have to amend the federal government. The states made it. The states will have to bring it down. Look them up.
Mr. Burrow, 45 seconds.
Yes, thank you. I'm happy to talk about this bill because this bill did contain a lot of very important things for Western North Carolina. Western North Carolina is in a tough spot because there's no flat land. We have got to have fiber optic cable running either in the ground or above us on poles. Guys, that infrastructure bill would have been critical if the fact that it had so much garbage in it that was socialism. The socialist stuff that was in that bill included requiring kindergarten teachers to have a 4-year college education. Ridiculous things that are so outrageous. But I would like to talk at some point tonight about the amount of money that's in Washington that needs to come back to this district. There's a mountain of money out there, folks, and we have to have a responsible congressman that can go get it and knows how to bring it back to this district.
Thank you. Ms. Navarez.
So I wholeheartedly agree that when a bill is brought to the floor in Congress, it needs to be based on what it actually is. I'm not disagreeing with everything that was in the bill, and I'm not agreeing with everything that was in the bill. However, we need broadband. We need our roads and our bridges taken care of. But one of the ways to do that is how we define what infrastructure is. And right now, the way the federal government and the states define broadband does not encapsulate it in a way that the money can actually make it back down to where it needs to be utilized. So that's one thing. But going back to the omnibus bills, we have to rebuild trust in our government. And that doesn't do it. It doesn't matter which side does it. We have to rebuild trust, and we have to get away from those. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Mr. Edwards.
I think if we really want to get down to the core of this problem, we all have to realize that we should not expect Washington, D.C. to fix these issues for us. That's right. Yeah. I would be more in favor of lowering the federal income tax, not a consumption tax, as has been recommended by our current congressman. That is a tax on the poorest amongst us. But we need to lower the federal income tax and send the money back to the states and let the states decide how to spend that money. Right. Because when the federal government sends us money, I've been there in the room trying to decide how it gets spent. When the federal government sends us that money, they put so many handcuffs on it, we can't spend it efficiently or accomplish what we need to do with it.
Ms. Woodhouse.
I think that the biggest misnomer is we keep calling it an infrastructure bill. It had 3% infrastructure in it. It was a socialism bill. It was not an infrastructure bill. And what I think the big part of that question is that no one else on this stage has addressed are the Republicans that crossed over and voted with Joe Biden. We had an opportunity as a party to put an end to his socialist agenda right out of the gate. The squad wouldn't even vote for this bill. They weren't even on the House floor when the vote happened. Both of our state senators voted for this. We have got to hold Republicans accountable when they leave the platform and vote on socialist nonsense. And that's why we need strong leadership in Washington, D.C., strong America First candidates who are going to stand up and say, you're a conservative, you got here on the back of Republican volunteers, you will vote with the platform.
So many topics, such little time. Abolish the IRS. We do need a consumption tax. And it's not going to be a tax on the poor because we can give them a credit. This is easy to do. There needs to be a consumption tax, folks. Then everybody that's working here illegally, they're going to become paying taxes because everything they buy, they're going to pay taxes on. The people that buy the yachts and the jets, they're going to pay a lot of taxes. We don't need the IRS. Abolish it. Abolish income tax. We need a consumption tax, and we give a credit to poor people so they're not penalized. It's one more federal agency gone.
Thank you. All right. Any more? Mr. Burrow, this question will be for you, and it is wind, solar, electric cars, energy independence, fossil fuels, natural gas, stifling regulations, environmental concerns. Where does a Western North Carolina U.S. House member land on the issue of energy?
Energy is defined as what runs America. If we don't have a solid portfolio of energy sources in this nation, we won't survive. Folks, natural gas, whether it's hydroelectric, whether it's coal, whether it's oil, they call them fossil fuels, but I don't know any fossils that live 40,000 feet under the ground. But anyway, that's something down there that provides us wonderful oil that we can burn. Folks, solar and wind cannot survive without government and state subsidies. It just won't work. There's a 3,000-acre solar farm just north of Los Angeles called the Big Solar City out there. 3,000 acres, Los Angeles, very expensive real estate. It produces the same amount of power as a natural gas plant 100 miles south of that solar farm that sits on 122 acres. Folks, solar and wind is an alternative. It is not a primary source. Ask the folks in Dallas, Texas, 2 years ago when the ice storm came along. Those folks were in bad shape. There were airplanes sitting on the ground. There was everything stopped. We cannot rely on the socialist agenda to have capitalism and have safety in this country. These socialists hate you and I. I hope you understand that. Folks, they want to think about it. How many buses are in the city of Asheville versus how many buses are in Washington, D.C.? These people don't even drive a car. They don't care that gas is $5 a gallon. They want it to be $5 a gallon because that's what hurts rural America. We got to stop these people.
Thank you. Who would like to weigh in? I see Mr. Edwards going right to left. 45 seconds.
Yeah, I think if you want to use solar or wind, you should be able to do that at your expense. It should not be put on the backs of every other American here. We will not have energy independence until everyone makes their choice. We're about free markets. And if we want a free market, then folks should be able to use a fossil fuel, or they should be able to have an option to pay for a more expensive way. I am the only Senate Republican in the North Carolina General Assembly to have stood up against Roy Cooper and even the Republicans to vote against House Bill 951, which is what I would consider North Carolina's Green New Deal. That's the kind of backbone that I've had in Raleigh, and that's exactly what I'll do in Washington, D.C.
All right, Mr. Honeycutt, 45.
This is another one of those great job interview questions. It's not energy independence, it's energy dominance. We've got to start saying the right terms. It's energy dominance. I got to watch Fort Knox installation become the ability to unplug from the power grid with solar panels. We've got to have resiliency and redundancy in our infrastructure.
Amen.
Now, it don't need to be done at the government level. We should not be involved with making that decision. It is the businessmen and women that determine which alternative fuel we use. But we've got to take our infrastructure into account and have more than a single point of failure in our infrastructure.
Thank you. Ms. Sluter, 45.
Okay, can I say that I believe oil is how we are going to pay our national debts? Listen, we have got enough oil to run this country for 100 years at $1.80 a gallon. Oil is how we're going to pay our debt, but let me say this. The Lord said that the earth will wear out like a garment, and we would be foolish not to encourage everybody to do everything they can to help preserve our planet. It does suffer under the weight of our industry, okay? We have to take care of it. What I loved about Trump was that he signed a bill to clean the ocean. I respect that about him. He looked at everything that we needed to have in order to protect us and preserve us, and he did a great job of that. So think about that. I'm for energy independence. I'm for drilling now, but we have to be wise about the future of our planet, okay?
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, then we'll go to the question that would have been asked to Mr. Cawthorn. So this is open to any of you for a 45, or all of you for a 45-second answer. What are your top 3 kitchen table issues for Western North Carolina families? Starting from right to left. Mr. Edwards?
It clearly is the runaway inflation that we're seeing right now. because of the policies coming out of Washington, D.C. I certainly recognize as a businessman what it takes to keep costs low. The same type of regulation rollbacks and policies that President Trump had in place. The real kitchen table issue right now for real Americans is how much money it's taking them for gas every week, what it's costing them in heating oil, what it's costing them in groceries. Inflation is running away. It is the absolute top of the list today. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Honeycutt.
Putting the boots on the ground in 15 counties, you get to meet a lot of people. If your mom and dad out in Cherokee, you're worried about your children's education. If you're a farmer out in Haywood County, you're worried about feeding, fueling, and fertilizing your cows tonight, trying to sell them because you can't make it because of gas prices. If you're a parent, you're worried about your son or daughter getting addicted to something coming across the southern border because we haven't shut it down. It's about Western North Carolina values. It's about looking Western North Carolina men and women in the eye and being a Western North Carolina first candidate and not talking about Washington, D.C. policies. Let's talk about what matters to Western North Carolina.
Thank you. Ms. Woodhouse.
As a mama bear, I would say the three kitchen table issues I hear about all the time are inflation, inflation, inflation. People trying to decide if they buy groceries or heat their home, how they're going to put $65 worth of gas in their car every other day to get to work, how they're going to be able to afford to pay their bills. The second issue is CRT and SEL and getting the government out of our classrooms, stopping grooming our children, and selling this fake propaganda to our children. In North Carolina, we passed a Senate Bill 476 in 2020, which put social emotional learning, the cousin of CRT, into our classrooms here in North Carolina. So a kitchen table topic is keeping boys out of girls' sports. A kitchen table topic is keeping sexual grooming out of our classrooms.
Amen. Thank you.
A gallon of gas does not go as far in the mountains as it does in the valley. Okay, it is hard on people. You know, when our gas is $4 a gallon, and our bacon is $7 a pack, and our hot dogs are $6.50 for 8 hot dogs, and your wages are low and your housing is high, they can't make it on this. And they're right. We have to have energy independence, energy dominance. We have to bring. And Pete Buttigieg, where was he working out this supply chain issues to stop this inflation? You know, he was on maternity leave. He was on maternity leave. And our goods were backing up at the West Coast. Oh, we could go on and on. But wages, housing, and inflation is killing us in WNC.
Thank you. Mr. Burrow.
Thank you. The big, everybody's got it right. It's the inflation. It's the price of gas. It's the price of food. But there's also there's the vacancy and the void of broadband. Guys, the lights in this room are important. Your broadband is not a luxury. It's a utility. It is just as important as your lights and your heat in your house. We have to have broadband to every house and every school in Western North Carolina. So inflation is absolutely the top of mind today because it happens so quickly. Because for me, I was in 36 years of financial advice. I studied the Fed every day I was working. I understand exactly how the government affects you and your daily life and your pocketbook. I understand how they can raise interest rates and punitively damage you. I get it. I understand it. I managed it. We have to control inflation because it's all bad government policy.
Thank you. Ms. Navarez, I apologize. I should have come to you first.
No worries, no worries. All right, so as far as the kitchen table talk goes, everybody says inflation. It does. It comes and it goes. We've seen it happen in years past. What we need to worry about is the recession that always follows inflation. That's going to hurt us because where is most of our money? It's in our homes. I personally was affected from the housing bubble in 2007 and 8. The next thing would be education. I have children in the public school system, so making sure that they can read, write, and effectively communicate. And then next is housing. I have a son who is 19. He didn't choose to go to college even though he could. He is making really good money in trades, but can't go buy a house because it's too out of reach. We have to get a handle on that.
Thank you. Mr. O'Connell.
I'm going to use my 45 seconds on something different. I got to say it. I don't get it. We've got a congressman that's missed more votes than any other freshman congressman in history, and that chair is empty. I got to call it like I see it. I don't get it. Does he not respect you all enough to be here and be talked to by you and answer questions? I asked the question, why would you or anyone want to support someone that doesn't have enough respect for you to be here tonight? Something is not right here, folks. We all have got the ability and the strength to come here and address you. Our congressman is a no-show, no-call. When that happens at the Pisgah Inn, they're out of here. And I'm telling you, there's something wrong when your congressman won't show up.
Thank you. Ms. Navarez, this question comes to you for a minute and a half. Do you believe China should be held accountable for COVID? And what should be the U.S. policy toward China?
So as far as China goes, we know that the Chinese Communist Party is the one that is creating most of these issues that we are seeing here. Whether it's the humanitarian atrocities that they're committing in their own country, or not following protocol when it comes to whatever they're doing in their biolabs. So I believe that oversight and making sure that things that could harm the entire populace of the planet needs to be addressed, for sure. Also, the fact that they are reaching out with their purse strings and purchasing the loyalty of other countries through the Belt and Road Initiative. Thank you. And so we have to understand that they're, instead of building alliances traditionally how we have done in the past, they are purchasing those alliances. So we need to make sure that we're keeping track of that, and that is on our radar for the United States.
Big deal.
Thank you. Other comments? We're moving from right to left, so we'll go to Mr. Edwards for 45.
Yeah, I'll respond to that real quick. We need somebody in the White House that's got backbone like President Trump to hold foreign governments accountable. What we see going on right now would not be happening clearly if President Trump were in the White House today. And then I want to shift gears real quick. A gentleman asked me a while ago, he said, Chuck, you're doing a good job talking about your conservative principles and what you've done in Raleigh, but what does that mean in Washington, D.C.? I think most of us recognize this as a job interview, and in business, we consider that past performance is a predictor of future performance. And so, yes, I've talked a great deal about my experience in Raleigh. And that is exactly what we need in Washington, D.C. Conservative principles and with a proven track record.
Thank you. Mr. Honeycutt.
Short answer is yes, we've got to hold China accountable for what they did to our elections, what they did to our country, and what they did for our children during COVID. But more importantly, I think it's great to have a congressman that can go to Washington, D.C., who's actually served in the Pacific and actually has wrote foreign policy about China. That we've been competing against China for years, and they'll always be an economic threat. They want to be the middle kingdom because that's what they think that their lot in life is, just like Russia wants to be the bear. We've got to have someone to go to Washington who's actually been there and has done that. Not just say, I'll talk about it. Someone who's actually been to see the South China Sea that they're trying to shut down, that will cripple our economy if they close that border. Correction, close the South China Seas to us. We've got to have a strong Navy in that area. We've got to have a strong foreign policy that keeps China in the box.
Thank you. Ms. Woodhouse, 45.
It's going to be up to the 118th Congress to set a tough policy with China because unfortunately we're stuck with Joe Biden in the White House for 2 more years. And we have 2 years to get it right. And we must go after China for what they did. We must go after Fauci, and we must go after every single Chinese sympathizer that we have serving in the U.S. House and the Senate and the White House and all their family members as well. Because this is a problem that runs into the deep state, and we know it. If you haven't read the book Red Handed, there's my book recommendation for the evening. Pick it up on Amazon. Look at what is happening. China is coming at us. But inside our own government, we have Chinese sympathizers that allowed what happened to our children, our communities, and our country.
Thank you. It is absolutely true. Excuse me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is everybody going to respond to this? Is this a regular question? Okay.
Yeah. All of your terms have been used. Sorry.
That's terrible.
Mr. Burrow.
I got good ideas. See you later.
There you go. Guys, the issue with China is, did they start the virus? Yes, of course, it came from that over there. We know that. Everybody knows that. Fauci knows it. We all know it. But the problem is that we have socialists in our government, in our White House. The socialists that are in our White House and are giving the Biden administration economic advice truly are socialists. So let's go to 30,000 feet. Every socialist nation, let's name them on the planet: Xi Jinping, China; Putin, Russia; Kim Jong-un, North Korea. How about Ayatollah Khomeini? This is where socialism takes you. It doesn't take long. This is the election that we stop it all. Because if we allow socialism to grab a toehold in this nation, we will end up with one person in charge, just like all those other people. Folks, democracy must survive.
Yes. Thank you. More comments? All right. This brings us to our last question to Mr. O'Connell of the debate. Mr. O'Connell, for a minute and a half, what are the implications of big tech in the October 2020 protection of the Biden family from the New York Post reporting? And what should be done with Hunter Biden's laptop revelations?
I watch the news like everybody else. I don't believe it all, but I watch it. It sure sounds like there's something up there. Sure sounds to me like something smells. I certainly hope it's pursued, but I believe there's a political club up there in Washington, folks, and we ain't in it. And it's made up of Republicans, and it's made up of Democrats. And no matter what we want, we ain't in that club. And we're never going to be in it unless we start sending people to Washington that are outsiders.
That's right.
President Trump was an outsider. He tried to break it up, and they went after him hard. You got to give him a lot of credit. He had thick skin. I consider myself an outsider. The only political experience I've got is that I vote. That's it. Other than that, 40 years running a business, 40 years dealing with the Department of the Interior and all of their dysfunction, going up to the Pisgin and weighing the French fries and telling me, you're not putting enough French fries on the plate. That's what I deal with up there. I realize big government is the problem. And I realize we've got to limit the size of government, and we've got to break up the political club. And the only way to break it up is to send people to Washington that have never been and never will be part of that club. And those people are ones that will term limit themselves and are not doing it for the money. I'm not taking a salary, folks, and I'm term limiting myself for you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm told that Mr. Honeycutt, you are the only person who has a point left. A comment left.
Hey guys, all right, Joe Biden was lying when he said he wasn't involved in his son's dealing with foreign governments. Joe Biden, his son put that money in his pocket. We're paying his son to do paintings right now, and the kid can't paint like a fourth grader. Come on, we gotta put the Biden people in a box.
All right. Thank you.
Kind of a compromise one, but that's all right.
20 seconds.
20 seconds.
Compromise.
Okay, all right. The Biden treated Donald Trump this way, think of what he would have been able to get away with, right? No, they put his family, they've got his children under indictment today. Barbara and I pray for our country every day. We have compassion for the Trump family. What they have done and what they've been put through is ridiculous. The Bidens have to stand up for fair is fair. Let's treat them all equal.
Thank you. All right. This concludes the question part of the second half, and now we will finish with the 1-minute closing statements. And Mr. Edwards, would you begin, please?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity for all of us to be here, and I appreciate that you are here tonight. Chuck Edwards is a businessman that loves this country with conservative principles, that has a track record of getting things done. Ladies and gentlemen, that's exactly why we sent President Trump to the White House in 2016. He's a businessman with conservative principles that loves this country and has a track record of getting things done. No one else up here can say that they have actually cut your taxes. No one else up here can actually say that they have outlawed sanctuary cities or passed legislation to protect the Second Amendment or balanced budgets or passed substantial election reforms. No one else up here can say those things. I'm a businessman that loves this country with conservative principles that has a track record of getting things done. Vote Chuck Edwards. Thank you.
Thank you. 1 minute, Mr. Honeycutt.
I'm Rod Honeycutt, a Western North Carolina 1st candidate. My campaign manager sits on the throne. He tells me what to do every morning. I pray to God. I have 800,000 campaign advisors across this district. The farmers, the first responders, the families, the school teachers. I didn't hire some big politician guy in Washington, D.C. to manage my campaign. I go talk to people face to face and see what's on their minds, because that's what people want. They don't want to see me come across the TV telling you what I want to do. I served our country for 37 years as a colonel. I will serve this district every day. I will go down fighting to make sure Western North Carolina is the most productive, most lethal place on earth. We can't turn in our guns. We can't turn in our Bibles. We can't let the government be in our schools. We can't let the government be in our medical decisions. Send a fighter to Washington, D.C. We've had enough business people up there. They'll take your pocket and put it in their own back pocket. God bless you, God bless yours, and God bless the United States of America.
Thank you. Your 1 minute, please. Ms. Woodhouse.
Thank you all for being here tonight. There's a lot of other places you could be, but this speaks to how much you care about your country and this congressional district. We do not need to send a politician to Washington, D.C. We have enough of those. We need to send a hard-fighting patriot to go there. And this race is not about May 17th. This race is about November. This race is about who can beat Jasmine Beach Ferrara, the Marxist that's coming on the Democratic side, who has $2 million in George Soros money and wants to downtown Asheville this entire congressional district. There's one person on this stage that can go toe-to-toe with her. Just one. It's the one in high heel shoes with the liberal hair. We've got to be on the stage fighting her, because if she wins, if we send the wrong person out of this primary, we are going to wake up in November and we will have a member of the squad representing this congressional district. And there's not one person in this room, there's not one conservative across this district that wants to see that happen. Our worst nightmare would come true. This is about the November election.
Thank you. Ms. Kluger, 1 minute.
This is about we the people. I have spent 30 years helping families and fighting corrupt, bureaucratic overreach with agencies that have too much power, not enough accountability, no regard for the wisdom of the common person in this community. They hide behind secret doors, they make their own decisions, and they tell you about it later. It's what they've done in 2020, and it's why I'm in this race. I have seen them get people hurt. I'm watching them get our country hurt. My number one job in this the whole thing, the whole reason for me being here is to return power to you, whatever it takes. That's why I'm here, and that's what I'll do, and that's who I'll fight for, just like I have for decades. Thank you, Christy Sluder.
Thank you. Mr. Burrow, 1 minute, please.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to be here tonight. Again, a Buncombe County guy. Been here since I was 6 years old, and I love this district. I know exactly where my ashes will be spread. Guys, this is Easter week, and this is the most important week of my faith. Easter, this is an important election, you're right. But Easter is what it's all about for me personally. And on Good Friday, when Jesus Christ came here as a human and was nailed to a cross and rose 3 days later, guys, that gave us all in this room salvation. It gave us all hope. It gave us all. And this nation was founded by men and women who had that embedded and tattooed on their heart. They believed that, and this is the real crux of this matter. We love this country, we love this nation, and we're not going to let it crumble under the imposition of socialist agendas ever in this nation. Guys, I love the fact that I'm a Buncombe County guy. It's really important. I really wish that I could talk to all of you, and I hope to get a chance to. I'm Matthew Burrell. You're a conservative Christian businessman in this race. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Navarez.
My name again is Wendy Marie Limbaugh Navarez. I agree we should not send a politician or a businessman back to D.C. We need to send a servant leader, someone who has service at the core of who they are, who cares about every single person in the community. I will be a representative for all. It's about listening to people, connecting with them, and understanding what it is that matters in their lives. So please raise your hand if you are ready for truth over theatrics. Tell me if you believe in honor over hostility. And please tell me that you believe in service over self. If you believe those three things, then please vote for Wendy Marie Limbaugh Navarez on May 17th. If you'd like to learn more, you can go to wendynavarez.com. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. O'Connell.
And to wrap it up, folks, why would Bruce be running for Congress? My son got back from a tour in Afghanistan and Iraq. He had a high security clearance. He got a great job working for a cybersecurity company, paying 6 figures. Then Trump got elected. Because of his high security clearance, he got tapped for a job in the Pentagon. My son became a Trump appointee, the Undersecretary of State for Cybersecurity in the Pentagon. He took a 50% cut in pay to do that. I went up to him and I said, Blake, why would you take such a big cut in pay? He looked at me and he said, Dad, you always taught me it's the mission. For me, it's the mission right now. That's why I'm doing this. My name is Bruce O'Connell, and I ask for your vote.
Thank you, candidates, for your courage to run and all your work. And thank you, audience, for being here. We'll get through the primaries and we'll have one candidate. We hope you'll support that person against the other party.
Better